This is what I was talking about when I talk about my very first video on YouTube ever. Very first video ever. If you've been with me from the beginning, it was on dog whistles.
Yeah.
And it was about this very subject. It was about people getting mad every time they replace a white character or a male character with a female or a non-white character. And the problem is that the people like Thought Slime over here, it's funny, I don't even know what his real name is. The people like Thought Slime over here.
We don't need to know it. We're comfortable with his hacker name.
Because I'm a male. I don't care. So,
Mr. Slime.
Mr. Slime here. Okay. Little Slime, because he's like a little boy. Little Slime here. They look at that and they say, oh, the reason people are against replacing white male characters with non-white female characters is because they're racist and sexist.
Right?
And it's like, no, and I'm like, this is like the dumbest down, lowest resolution take of this. I'm like, that's not why people are mad. People don't care about replacing characters. In 2011 or 2008 or whenever Miles Morales replaced Peter Parker, because Peter Parker fucking dies in the Ultimate Spider-Man and gets replaced by a half black, half Puerto Rican kid. No one cared. No one fucking cared. Okay. It all up until 2014, all up until Gamergate, there was tons of media that featured women replacing men, et cetera, and no one cared. If the female Ghostbusters movie came out in 2008, no one would have cared about it. I mean, it still would have been a bad movie, but it wouldn't have been like, they wouldn't have got the hate that it got when it came out. And it's because, and this is what these people keep not understanding when they complain about this shit, is that every time we see a character who was a white or a male be replaced by, like a female or someone for a diversity quota, what makes us mad is it represents to us that the woke politics are infiltrating that piece of media, that medium. That's what bothers us. We don't care about the replacement itself. We care that what it represents. It represents, again, another shift to the SJW side from all this stuff. That's the problem.
The critical theory, critical race theory, communism,
right?
Uber woke faction has infiltrated, and this is just a sign of it, a symptom, as you would call it.
Exactly. It's the same thing. Yeah, like if the new Star Wars movies had come out, in 2010, people still would have. I mean, I still think they would have sucked. And say they're exactly the same, they still would have sucked, right? But they didn't have the additional animosity of like, oh well, they had to make Rey a Mary Sue because she has to be a strong, independent woman for the woke crowd.
Yeah.
So it adds a whole level of animosity onto this, and it's so funny because they don't understand that. They're totally blind to that political reaction from them inserting their own political bullshit into comics and video games and movies.
I loved Into the Spider-Verse, but they did the substitution in a logical way. I think a lot of people rebel when they take characters, because the whole Luke Skywalker narrative is part of this as well. Right. So not only they didn't replace Luke Skywalker, but they completely emasculated him. Like, people wanted to see the success of Luke Skywalker years later, and what they showed was what an utter failure he had become.
Right, exactly.
And it totally we're not watching young Luke Skywalker start his adventure to know at the end of it it's all miserable, worthless garbage.
Yeah, it's all just you go back and you watch the original Star Wars and it's hard to put out of your mind.
Totally.
Like, where is this going to end? This is going to end with Luke Skywalker becoming a angry old hermit who gives up on life on an island somewhere.
Yeah.
Tries to kill his own nephew because he had a bad dream.
But that's part of this is also part of the woke culture, infiltrating these various institutions of ours, because it's the same exact. The whole Luke Skywalker narrative is not dissimilar from going into a park and tearing down a statue. Like they say, here is the statue of Luke Skywalker, young adventurer out to save the world, and all of a sudden let's turn that into something completely different. Let's completely destroy that narrative.
Right. No, I mean, and I did an entire video on this very subject, on comparing why Into the Spider-Verse worked where
I know, that's an amazing video.
The Last Jedi didn't work. because and it's exactly what you're talking about. Like, and it's so funny because you look at Into the Spider-Verse and it should trigger all those same things. I mean, you have Peter Parker, the classic hero, is basically reduced to being an old, out of touch guy who's given
Right.
up on life, being replaced by a young black minority character,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
yet they handle it and they handled it perfectly, and it's because it was written well and it was written so funny and charming. There's also a million other reasons why it would work with Peter Parker than it wouldn't work with Luke Skywalker. That it shows that it has nothing to do with racism
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah, it has to do with respecting the characters,
Exactly.
respecting the tradition. You know, the left is so good at that.
Well, and here's the thing, like, even like if they had kept Luke the bad way that he was, but everything else about the movie was written well, like people wouldn't have liked the Luke stuff, but they still wouldn't have like hated it to the extent that they
Oh
did.
yeah, totally.
So like the whole like destruction of Luke's character was just kind of like that was like taking the pile of shit that was the Star Wars sequels and then like spitting on top of it and then handing it to you.
Yeah,
You're like, it was
exactly.
already a pile of shit, okay?
Well, and then also all of the elitist attitudes that so many people that are involved in these movies give people, as in,
Right.
you're not, the only reason you don't like it is because you are
You're
unworthy.
sexist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You are
You're not allowed
unworthy
to
of this masterpiece.
there were so many people that are like, you're not allowed to criticize the Star Wars sequels because if you do, it obviously means you're a sexist.
Yeah. That's a great Kafka trap for corporate America, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. If hey, this we're corporate America. If you don't like our products, it probably means you're a racist.
Yeah, exactly. Write a bad review? Racist.
Let alone any changes to accommodate them instead of us. Diverse representation in mass media is not a huge win for marginalized people, it is an extremely small win. It does not fundamentally alter the power structures which have marginalized them. It simply allows them to exist within those power structures. Even that, the most minor concession imaginable, is enough to inspire frenzied contempt among the man-baby industrial complex. But it wasn't hard to see coming. That type of yearning for an idealized prelapsarian past is the foundation of all reaction. It's a difficult balancing act.
See, this is why he's so stupid. He doesn't even try to understand the argument. He just says, well, the man babies are just mad because they're racist. But even if it's not because they're racist, it's just because they're blinded by nostalgia.
Yeah. Losing their political power.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, maybe they don't want to see a bunch of political nonsense infected into every aspect of their life. Maybe that's the problem.
Why can't they just develop new characters? I don't get it.
Because laziness.
Okay. Well, that makes
but
sense.
Adam, they did develop
That's
new
logical.
characters, and they turned out to be terrible. They were
Yeah.
Ray and Finn, and they were awful. And it's so funny because Ray and Finn, the setup for Ray and Finn's character is actually, I think, fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Fantastic characters.
Yeah.
I mean, the setup for them. You have the idea of humanizing a stormtrooper.
Yeah, totally. No,
very
I'm
interesting.
with you.
Yeah,
Very.
that's a very new and interesting direction to take Star Wars in. And then you pair it up with someone who's been like in some shitty orphaned life somewhere, and you go, okay, this is like the perfect setup for like two characters who are heavily psychologically damaged, finding their humanity through Han Solo, right, being the father figure.